Thank you very much. I am Jolly Grace Andruvile Okot. It depends on where you have found me. Locally, people call me Jolly. Internationally, Jolly Okot. Other ways, all the names will appear. So it depends on where you're calling me from. So basically, I am the CEO and founder of Invisible Children Uganda, and now WEND Africa. So yeah, that's who I am. I'm a mother of 4 biological children, 4 adopted children. Yes, and I grew up in northern Uganda. I grew up at the time when the war was starting. So I saw it all. The first time I saw Alice Lakwena, and then later a little bit with Kony and also with UNLA. So yeah, I grew up in Gulu. Basically, I would say Omoro now. I grew up, I feel that I'm one of those lucky people that I share the history of the entire country. Of course, I don't know much about Obote 1, but at least during Amin's time, I was a young kid growing up. So in the 70s, I saw all that. And during Amin's time, it wasn't the same. My dad being a head teacher, I lived mainly in Gulu, like by then it was Gulu town. So I went to school in Laibi Central. My memory about that location was that around Laibi Central, Tegwana, all those were people from Madi. Okay, I will call them Amin's people. So there were very few Acholis there. So one thing that I remember very well was it was a tough moment. You're going to fetch water in the well. Then you have those kids who feel they were on the side of the government. They will beat you up. There was a guy, there was a well called Kulumadi. Everybody knows it's right there in the valley of Laibi after Chereleno. There was a guy there who was, I think, sometimes mentally ill. He would come and defecate in the water and call people to come and fetch. So we lived during Amin's time with a lot of fear. But after the Liberation War, that was the time I was already 11 years. Actually, during the time of liberation, I was 11 years. But my experience of the change of government was tough because we walked from Gulu. We went by train to Pit. That was actually the last train we took. And then we continued, and then we walked on foot from Opit to Awere. That was quite a distance. So we were young with luggage, and yeah, we lost a lot of things. But also after the liberation, then the Amin's troop, who were from Karamoja, that were passing by, looted everything. I remember I grew up with my dad's t-shirt, just because I didn't have any clothes. So that was our experience. But during Obote 2, it became really beautiful. There was total peace. I remember that's when I joined secondary school. I would walk from my home to Otwal to go and board a train to go to Kampala. It was very peaceful. Yeah, so again, after 1986, everything, the peace that we saw in northern Uganda got shattered when the rebels started with the UNLA, Alice Lakwena, and the LRA. So I grew up in all this, you know, like location where there was peace and where there was no peace. So my life was just that. But I am happy of the peace that we have received in northern Uganda, and we are grateful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please tell me more about your work with Invisible Children. What influenced that, the founding of Invisible Children?
What influenced my work with Invisible Children was that, as I have shared earlier, I went in through that pain. I was abducted when I was coming back from school. As I said, after the change of government in 1986, it caught us when we were already in school. So as I was walking back, you know, coming home, I actually didn't know, because back then there was no transport. So for those who know, the distance between Awere to Rachkoko was quite a bit. So the only bus that we had was from Kitgum to Lira, called Lodgken. So on my way coming back, that is when I actually found a barracks that was created in my village. And when I reached there, of course, there was a lot of force. I was a teenage girl, so they said, you have one option: join us or we kill you. And definitely, I shared this with a lot of pain. I found people that were being punished and their legs were being shot with a pistol, and that was so scary. So I came back, went back and joined UNLA. I would call it UNLA, but although the Holy Spirit movement had started coming, so because I was that smart kid, I was given to be in charge of revenue. So I was the market officer. So I used to collect dues from Achet market, from Lango, and then from Pade side, because Awere is in the center. But one role that I played the most was the role of helping to change the old currency to the new one. So we were the young rebel kids that would be sent to go to the markets called Malaba. Is between Lira, Patch, and Umoro and Pade. Actually, it's there in the border. So we would carry a lot of money, and that was the time they would change the new currency of the current government. But in that process of doing that, we would carry our guns, our alcohol, and our money. But when we reach closer to the market, we would hide our guns somewhere in the bush, and we'll go like people who were selling alcohol, and we would exchange. So with that pain, it became very difficult for me after 2 years, because there was transition from UNLA to Alice Lakwena. Actually, I always joke about it. May his soul rest in peace. It's called Otoa Adwene. Actually, the first day Alice Lakwena crossed the river to go to Pade side, I was the one who held Alice Lakwena at gunpoint. So I was coming to fetch water, and then I saw some woman coming with a white cloth and a gun, and I was like, this must be LRA. That's how we used to term it. So I held her at gunpoint, and she was like, no, I'm a good person. Then the next time we went to and had her speak and have vision of fighting Museveni's government. So with that 2 years of pain, as a young girl, being amongst the rebel or the army is very difficult. Something that I share with a lot of pain is that there are moments that you actually get raped and you have nowhere to report. Like you get raped and you have nowhere. This commander, that commander, the other commander. It depends on who you find. So you want to make peace with the army commanders, so you have to give yourself. So that pained me a lot, because I wasn't ready for that. And as such, after a period of time, my dad actually left us at home and he went back to Kampala to receive his salary. My dad was a teacher. But my dad had already told us that this war is taking us nowhere. Being a history teacher, he had learned a lot about such war. And he used to tell us that if we get the opportunity, we need to escape. So I walked for 60 miles from Awere all the way to Pajule at night. So with that, I escaped from the rebel, but unfortunately, our escape together with my dad, because when they came, they wanted to kill my dad. So our escape with my dad made my cousins to get killed because we disappeared. So we lost 21 of immediate cousins. Actually, the first massacre in Acholi happened in our home. With that, I went back to school. To cut the story short, I got a job with Oxfam. Oxfam supported me through my education, but I was working. We went to Kiriandongo refugee camp, and finally I went to work in Kampala with the urban refugees under UNHCR and InterAid. With that, now I found the opportunity to remove my siblings and take them to study in Kampala. But with that, now I started realizing that as much as I was serving the refugees, I was driving the best UN car I would always travel home when I need to travel home in that nice car. From that level, I even owned a car myself, but I realized there was challenge at home. Every time, my boss used to come from Lira. So every time I would take the children of my boss to Lira for holiday, then I would always risk driving from Kamdini to Gulu. It was very risky. With that, I got so upset because our home is in Tegwana, but whenever I come with that big car, I have to come and sleep in front of Mega FM. That was a location where our family. So on days that I'm there with the car, the children will sleep in the car. Days that I'm not there, the children will sleep on the street. And that pushed me to go and look for money to tell the story of the war. So I went to a friend and I got Dennis Ojue, and then I got my brother-in-law Shanti Francis, and we went to a way camp, documented the life in the IDP camp. And I went to, there was a guy who used to do documentaries in Kampala, so I went to him and made my own documentary. And I went to the US Embassy. Now I share this because getting a visa, I'd never traveled internationally. I went and got a visa, and finally I went to the US, started moving door to door and telling people, we come from an area where there's war, so I needed you to see this documentary. And that is what inspired many people. But when they wanted me to be in the US, I came back, and later, that is what inspired Invisible Children. So with that, my friends who watched, the churches that I talked to, I went to very many churches, I went to very many communities. So when there was these 3 young filmmakers who wanted to come to Africa to document South Sudan, so they gave my contact as the contact that they should get in touch with. But because I had experience in working with refugees, they asked me to take them to South Sudanese camp. So I took them where I worked in Kiriandongo, and then later when they were talking in the car about how they want to tell the story of the war of South Sudan, I'm like, wait a minute, from Kiriandongo to my home is 1 hour. Let's go and see what is going on in Gulu. So when they came, needless to say, that was the beginning of the story. So basically what happened, after the 3 boys made the documentary, they went back. And of course, for me, I'd already been to the US, but I did not know what they were going to do with the documentary they made. So in 2004, they said, we have finished the documentary, so they asked me to go for the launch of the documentary Invisible Children. And because I was already inspired and I knew I had a vision of what I wanted to do, that is when I now went, and when they did the documentary, then they asked me, how can we help? And my goal of helping, I was paying already 15 girls in Gulu High School with the support of my dad. How can we help? And I said the best you can offer the people who are struggling during a time of war was to provide education. So I 100% advocated for supporting human resource, paying children in school. And basically, I would say to date, when we calculate and count, we actually supported almost 10,000 kids in school. So our goal, because of what I'd been going through, for me, I looked at secondary level. It was my vision. Then, of course, it was very difficult to start Invisible Children because part of it was a documentary, but part of it, there was the development program that I started here. So the documentary was being done from the US. So with that, we started with 100 kids, and we went on and on and on until 2012. We actually went almost up to 10,000 kids. But what also happened was, besides putting children in school, when we hit 3,000 kids in school, we realized the classrooms were not enough. So I went back to my partners from the US side and I said, you know what, however much we increase the number of students, there are no classrooms. For example, our biggest children were going to Gulu Senior Secondary School. Crested Crane and Gulu College, but the classrooms were not enough. Now we came up with this idea of what do we do? Should we build our own school? They wanted me to build our own school. So now Invisible Children would be owning a school. And I said, no, sustainability will be hard. One time if the war comes to an end, what will happen? So we basically chose the choice of let's rebuild the schools that we used to call super schools, Gulu High, Laibi College, Sacred Heart, you know, those were the big names then. So we started building government schools, and basically that is what we did. But as much as we were doing development work in Uganda, the other side in the US was advocating to an end of the war. So it was lobbying the senators, lobbying all the, I would say, the celebrities, Oprah, Christine Bell, name it, Don Cheadle, all those guys actually finally ended up coming to Gulu, and they were lobbying for their voices so that the US government can be a part of the peace process to bring the war to an end. So we did development work on education, we did economic empowerment, which was MEND, but also we did bracelet, we also did a little bit of farming cotton with Bono, the musician, and then we did the advocacy. Advocacy was the biggest. At least the development work was small. So basically that is what Invisible Children did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very impressive work. I know it's done a whole lot towards now the community transformation that is happening. Looking at the fact that there's a lot of people with skills that they can use for community transformation. And that actually brings me to my next question regarding the current work that you're doing towards also supporting in recovery and transformation of the community. Because I know you've transitioned on to WEND, and I would like to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so basically with WEND Africa, MEND was being funded. So it wasn't a hassle as such, because all the materials we used to buy, there was a monthly budget for running MEND at the time of Invisible Children. But in 2014, of course, you know what happened with Invisible Children. The strong advocacy did not go positively on Invisible Children. The COIN 2012 documentary that actually ended up many people questioning. For the first time, so many people around the world heard about COIN's war for the first time in 2012. It did not matter what happened in the past. So that brought down a lot of support that we had. One, our website crashed when the video went viral. So it looked like even it wasn't there. So that affected our funding. So in 2014, they decided to scale down the programs, all the programs, including education, the economic empowerment, which was MEND. And later, I decided, because I'd already done a strategic plan for MEND, so later I decided that let MEND now remain a program on its own, but I wanted it to be a program with a meaning. So I turned the M into W, and I looked at it and I said Women Empowerment Network and Design. So with that, I started working with the women who were already there, but over a period of time, we started providing training and giving opportunity for other women who wanted also to join us. So basically, that is what WEND is all about. So right now, what we're doing skilling of young girls, especially girls who have dropped out of school from the age 17 up to 50 years old. So long as you want to learn, that is the opportunity we are giving the women. Yeah.
Very amazing work. Oftentimes when people visit Gulu or any other district in Acholi, they remark on how much there's been a whole lot of transformation and growth, and they say you can't even tell what ever happened. And how do you feel about the fact that people say you can't tell like whatever happened? Is that how it should be? Is memory important?
For me, if there was a way, if opportunity was there, there should have been a whole museum of maybe even like 10 square miles for us to tell our history. right now, there's the young generation does not understand that even where we are seated right now, back then in the days, you would not be here at this time. This area was closed by 4 p.m. So for me, I think it is very important to keep our memory alive, because this, right now, when you look at what is going on in Gulu with our kids that are challenged, what we call the street kids, they are go and all time. I remember a few days ago someone wrote and said, if you look at the kids that used to run from their homes to come and sleep on the street, these kids who are complaining today that they have no jobs wouldn't say anything. So for me, memory is very, very important. And I feel sad that we have not kept even a single location where these things used to happen as a place where we would remind ourselves of how those places used to look like. For example, the bus park. You remember the bus park and the history of the bus park, Bishop Odama, Bishop Unono, all these religious leaders, the Kilils, coming to sleep with the kids in the bus park. That should have been an area of memory. So for me, I kind of feel it's a mistake that we are not thinking about memory of our past, because I think our memory of the past might shape our future. So I feel memory is very important.
That's very powerful. How would you suggest for the young people and for everyone else to collectively contribute towards memory so that it's something that we can then be able to correct?
I would say this statement is tough. If we would not be politically charged with negativity, I think the government of Uganda need to build a museum, not even a museum, a memorial center where we can help our generation and they can even see. For example, today, when I sit and speak to my children that even went to international school, that at one point I was abducted, at one point I was raped, at one point we slept, you know, like in the bush because we were fearing Karmajongs, we were fearing NRA, we were fearing LRA. My kids don't understand. But of course, my kids are different from the other children because we have a lot of documentary that was done by Invisible Children that once in a while we sit down and watch, and you even wonder if these were the very streets that is now like this. So for me, I would suggest that moving forward, like, we can keep our new generation is digitally charged. So I would love to see a digital kind of also memory or a museum where people can click and say like, oh, I wanted to see what happened, what is the history and all that. So that is one, but also I would love to see a physical location where people come and do, because coming from that very difficult war to the peace of today, there has to be a memorial. That has to be, we need to target the young generation digitally, but also we need to work and where people can come and visit as a memorial place. Thank you.
Thank you. I think lastly, I wanted to ask if there's any risk in currently how is being remembered, because there's a number of people that most times say that Acholi people were killing each other, and that's the only way most young people actually know or understand the whole. Like a digital museum, it would be very much helpful in helping young people also know more about the war. How can we actually avoid politicization when it comes to the memory of the war?
We can avoid politicizing this war, considering that our president played a key role. President Yoweri played a key role in accepting, because I would say accepting to go for a peace process, which to me was a big deal. The amnesty bit of it, And I would say that we need to really allow people who have gone through those challenges to share their stories. I have girls who work at WEND Africa that when they sit down and share their stories, you never believe that is a human being who lived through that. So for me, I think it's not political. If we could be allowed to share our stories the way I'm sharing my story right now, I'm not complaining. I am not complaining that NRA did that to me, LRA did that to me, but that is what I went through. So if we can talk about truth telling, like we share it the way it is, but not complaining, because one challenge that you need to know, I still meet my abductors up to now. They're a little older. I'm old and they're a little older also. So I still meet them and they know what they did to me, but I'm not fighting them or anything. But the truth of the matter is I need to share my story as Jolly, and people need to know that that is what I went through. So if I share my story, it doesn't bring in any politics. So let's share this story just for memory purposes. So for me, I think we can still do it without not being politically charged or putting blame game, but with the right purpose of learning and also for memories, but also to shape our future. Because right now, I look at the situation in Gulu. If someone come and say, let's recruit young children again to join the war, my generation will resist. But the new generation will not understand. But if they saw people whose lips were cut, ears were cut, they'll say, no, I don't want to go into that. If they saw kids who were sleeping on the street, like those who have come back, shared their stories, then that will be a way of continuity of putting peace to move forward by sharing our history.